the NRL. He made 25 appearances for the Giants since moving to Super League and will add depth to Richard Agard's half options at Headingley. He will become the starting halfback alongside Luke Gale, is what that should have said on the BBC's website. But big signing for Leeds. Statement of intent?
I have a sense that agencies are flattest to deceive slightly. He does perform well occasionally. It tends to be when Huddersfield play well, he plays well, or vice versa. But yeah, it's an okay signing, I would say. But it doesn't necessarily. If I'm a Leeds fan, I'm not necessarily very excited about it from my point of view.
It does make me wonder if Callum McClellan's ever going to get a shot.
Well, the answer to that question is not next year. It's signing a 30-year-old halfback is a we need to win now decision, not we're building for a decade of success type approach.
Is there any risk of Caesar and Gale kind of stepping on each other's toes in that side?
Yeah, because I see them both. I mean, I know this traditional 6-7 breakdown isn't as much of a thing as it used to be, but if I think about them, I think of them both as more 7s than 6s.
What they have got, though, is people like Myler, who, even though he's worn 7 a lot of times, I think plays more like a traditional 6, and the young lad who's played all across the back line, but he's probably a standoff. What's his face? Anyway, the kid who scored 4 tries the other week.
Broadbent,
yeah. It's kind of like 6 players at fullback, but then Jack is going to be the fullback. Jack Walker's going to be the fullback long term. You would expect. So I don't necessarily understand the signing, but I do think it's an upgrade on what they have this year in that position.
I can't disagree with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's all right. They'll probably get some value out of him, but he has had his injury problems, hasn't he, recently as well? So that's got to be a bit of a concern.
But what it will mean is if either Gale or Caesar is missing, they won't be completely shapeless and systemless.
That's true. Yes, because that's definitely been something they've been accused of this year. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, so Hull KR signed utility back Sam Wood from Huddersfield to a 1-year deal for 2022. The 24-year-old has made more than 80 appearances during his time for the West Yorkshire club.
And Tom Andrews said, seems a good utility player, unlikely to start, but when you can cover the full back line, that's a luxury to have. 1-year deal to prove himself. And always in our shadow said, why?
Well, KR have been splashing the cash. Everyone needs a bit of squad padding.
I think Tom covered why, didn't he? In that he can cover a lot of positions. Yeah. He can even play in the back row quite capably, I think, as well.
Yeah. To me, he's a good squad player. So yeah, I have no issue with that.
Sticking with Hull KR, they've signed Dewsbury Rams prop Tom Garrett for an undisclosed fee on a 2-year deal. The 26-year-old will join the Super League side for the 2022 season.
Yet again, the same two correspondents getting in touch. Tom Andrews saying, another one I don't know much about, but from what I've read, he's an 80-minute prop, young, non-quota, perfect signing. And then Always in Our Shadow says, who? This is what you get after throwing all your cash at a player Staines won't rid of.
I think Saints did offer a new deal, but
yeah, it depends what you offer, doesn't it?
Throw all the cash at him.
No.
Is 26 young for Tom Andrews? Surely 26 isn't young.
It's still moderately young for a prop, I would say. You've probably got another good 8 years in a prop at 26. Whether Garrett's good enough, because he's not a name. When I've seen Dewsbury play, he's not one of their players that I've looked at and said he's ready to step up. So, well, we'll see, won't we? I mean,
yeah, I must say he hasn't been on any sort of lists I've seen of Championship players ready to make the next step, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't do it.
No, and you know, there's a few examples of other players who've done it, so why not?
Yep.
So, Warrington teenage back Josh Thewlis has signed a new 3-year contract extension, which will keep him at the club until the end of 2024. The 19-year-old academy product has made 5 appearances on the wing early in the season, but has started the last 3 matches at full back. The Wolves have also added 2-year contract extensions to Ellis Longstaff and Connor Wrench, and new 12-month deals to Riley Dean, Aribe Doro, and Jacob Gannon. Dean's currently on loan at York and will stay there for the rest of the season before rejoining the squad for next year.
Tying down the future. Wigan Warriors have announced the 3 new signings for the 2022 season. Lebanese international winger Abbas Miski and NRL prop forward Patrick Mago and Cade Ellis have all signed 2-year contracts with the option of a third. Miski is 25 and formerly of Manly, will join when his contract expires at the end of the season. He's played 13 times and scored 12 tries in the championship so far this year. Front rower Mago will join from South Sydney Rabbitohs. The 26-year-old is of Samoan descent and has previously played for the Cowboys and the Broncos. He made 34 appearances in the NRL to date, including 8 so far this year. And Australian Ellis is a former Penrith Panthers forward who will join Wigan from the Dragons. 24-year-old has made 22 NRL appearances overall, including 6 this year.
The only one I know anything about is Miski. I haven't seen the other 2 play because I haven't been watching much NRL this year.
I've never heard of Ellis. Patrick Mago I have heard of and seen over the last few seasons, and I'm quite optimistic that he'll be the right sort of fit for a Super League club.
Yeah, fair enough.
Shall we?
You definitely need something new in the pack, I would say. So yeah.
Well, EFC78JU said 2 props from the NRL have signed for Wigan Warriors to replace the one season that are leaving and 1 retiring. It will be some season when we can get back on track and form next season. The Wigan team are not the champions they were from 2018. They've gone downhill since Sean Wayne left and Adrian Lamb joined, but the 2 new props will make the difference to the team. I certainly think we needed more props, and we couldn't just expect young forwards to keep coming through. We needed something else in that group, and with Tony Clubb retiring, or certainly leaving Wigan, and it looks like retiring, and all but confirmed Joe Bullock going to Warrington, this was needed at Wigan, massively needed. It was already needed when George Burgess couldn't fit the bill because of his hip problems, and we didn't strike to replace him at the start of the year, and I think it tells Wigan's forwards don't make the right sort of meters, so hopefully these 2 can be good performers, and like I say, I'm optimistic about Mago, but you said you know a bit about Miski from watching the Championship this year.
Only from obviously watching him on our league and stuff. I saw a little bit of Manly as well. He's a good finisher. It's not something you've traditionally struggled to produce, but obviously you've got your issues with players retiring, etc. So yeah, I mean he can do a job for you, I would say, and he's obviously got the. I think Miski signed at London, didn't he? Because he was desperate for playing time in terms of the World Cup. So he's probably, I would say, he's probably a little bit too good for London in terms of his quality. Whether he can step up at Wigan or not, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, to me, I would have liked him being our 3rd winger rather than having a 2 or a 5 on his back, which is what's going to happen by the looks of things. But he is a strong player, good speed, good finishing. We'll see if he steps up. It's not a signing that I'm angry about, but at the same time, it's not a signing that I'm giddy about. But I think it's addressing some needs, and there's more needs to address yet at Wigan.
Yeah. So moving into the Championship. So London Broncos move to AFC Wimbledon's new stadium at Plough Lane has been officially approved. Merton Council have rubber-stamped the ground share agreement at the new 9,215 capacity stadium, which was completed late last year, just 200 yards from Wimbledon's spiritual home at the old Plough Lane. A vote in March with Don's members resulted in a 91.7% voting in favour of welcoming the Broncos to the ground share, although it required revised planning permission due to opposition from local residents. Plough Lane will become the 10th permanent home of the Broncos in their nomadic 41-year existence. So they started back at Craven Cottage in 1980. They also played at Crystal Palace, Chiswick and Barnet prior to the advent of Super League in 96. In their maiden year in Super League, they played at the Valley, home of Charlton Athletic. Then moved to Brentford's Griffin Park, sadly departed. They have 3 different spells at the Twickenham Stoop, including 6 seasons when they were known at Harlequins. 2 seasons were spent at the Hive, but for the last 5 seasons they've been at the Ealing Trailfinders. They've been everywhere. They've practically played at every stadium in London, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's an element of sense to this, to me, though. I mean, it's not a million miles away from their very origins in Fulham. It's Fulham's literally just
that neck of the woods, isn't it?
And this is just below the river. It's also not a million miles away from where most of us will remember him kind of being, which is Brentford. And Ealing isn't exactly... It's not... At least it's on the same side of London, even though it's not very easy to get down to there. But also, it's not a million miles away either from the sort of Twickenham area either, is it? So the places where they've had some sustained kind of spells, Twickenham, Fulham, Brentford, it's not a million miles away from those areas, so hopefully it'll help reconnect some fans that have maybe drifted away, especially when they moved up north and were shit when they were playing at the Hive or whatever it was called.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I go to a different ground when I go watch London every time. So, yeah, why not just add another one to the list?
I thought Trailfinders had the potential to be a good set-in for a Championship side, but if they wanted to ever be a Super League side, it wasn't good enough for Super League that year that they were there.
Well, the thing is, it's not about this is the thing. It's not really about the stadium, because I mean, I watched them play at the Hive, and the stadium was fine. It's never about the stadium. It's about getting more bodies in the stadium.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. And if they can stick somewhere, then they've got half a chance of doing it.
Yeah, and like I say, I do think there's a chance, isn't there, that they can reconnect with some former fans. And AFC Wimbledon have a good fan base. They might support this because they'll want to support their stadium, because they've pushed for this, haven't they, to be their club back in their spiritual home kind of place, which is now what they're doing. Now they need to make it a success by having this stadium get good crowds every time. Yeah.
Good luck to them.
Yep. Toulouse have signed prop Romain Navarrete from fellow Championship side London, so a bit of a London thread going on here, on a deal until the end of 2023. The 27-year-old has made almost 100 appearances in Super League for Catalan Dragons, Wigan and Wakefield. Of course, he won a Super League with Wigan. Navarrete, who has won 7 caps for France, joined London ahead of this season, but will return to his homeland immediately to link up with promotion chasers Toulouse. I mean, it weakens London and it strengthens Toulouse.
Yep, it's as simple as that. Good signing, but I mean, as if Toulouse needed to be any stronger. In League One,
they did only win by 20 points the last time they played, didn't they? Not 50. So
they're absolutely slipping. They're falling apart. In League One, Keighley have signed former Samoan international and also ex-Toulouse Constantine Mika on a deal until the end of the season. The 31-year-old forward has made more than 150 career appearances for the Newcastle Knights, Hull KR, Toulouse and Villeneuve.
And finally, Origin Academy squads have been named for the Roses Clash. Lancashire and Yorkshire have each selected 23-man squads to prepare for... Do you know what? I think I've missed something from this rundown. Anyway, we'll do the Origin squads because if I've missed it, I've lost it. Origin Academy squads have been named. The match will be at Wheatwood Hall in Leeds on Wednesday, the 4th of August. The squads include several players with first-team experience, including Huddersfield Giants standoff Will Price, who recently made his Super League debut at home to Catalan Dragons. Price, the son of former England and Great Britain international Leon and former Catalans player